Hello, Congressional District 6. I know I get a lot of responses when I say District 6. I've had a couple people tell me it sounds too much like the Hunger Games. It's not how you say it. I said, well, you know, that's kind of what we've got going on. Is kind of like the Hunger Games. So I want to start by saying thank you to the very generous members of the VFW Red Arrow Post 1527 for donating the venue tonight. It's awesome. I'm Kimberly with Southwest Michigan for Bernie 2016. Charles and I would really like to thank you guys all for coming tonight to participate in this unique experience. So welcome to our first campaign meeting for the next President of the United States, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
So, without a doubt, we are excited. We are excited for a president who will not cower to the whims of the billionaires. We're excited for a president who will work tirelessly to end the outrageous income and wealth inequality that currently plague our country. We are excited for a president who wants to make higher education affordable for everyone. We are excited for a president who fights for equality and fairness in the workplace. We are excited for a president who not only recognizes climate change, but who is willing to fight with us to curb the habits of our country to help us end our dependency on oil and build a new infrastructure with a focus on clean energy. And we are especially excited for a president who will address the absurdity that our criminal justice system has become. Bernie has said that it's not about him. Bernie has said that it's about us. Bernie has said that he can't do this alone, but we need a political revolution. We need Bernie as president, but we need more than that. We need to take Congress back from the billionaire class as well. Right here in District 6, we are being represented in Washington by the longest-serving congressional representative in all of Michigan. And it's time to say goodbye to Fred Upton. We need to rid our district of Upton and seek representation that will promote progressive goals for us in Washington. With that being said, I'm so very pleased to introduce our guest speaker, one of our favorite local progressives, who is planning to run for Michigan's 6th District Congressional seat in 2016, Paul Clements.
Thanks very much, Kimberly. I ran Paul Clements. I'm a professor of political, if I can sit on this thing, will it work? It falls down, well, I'm in trouble. I'm a professor of political science at Western, but I teach national economic development strategies. My wife is a librarian, and my daughter just arrived from Philadelphia. We have two daughters. They both went to Kalamazoo Public Schools, Kalamazoo Central, and then Anna went on to University of Michigan. Then she got a master's degree in international human rights law. Wow. Which I thought was pretty cool. So I ran in 2014, and I'm going to be running again. It was my first time to run, and we got the highest Democratic votes share in my race ever in this district. So that was pretty good. It was not a great win, as you all know. But with my first time run, you learn a lot when you do this the first time. And so I'm beginning to sort of put the pieces together to build a stronger team, to build a stronger campaign. And everyone knows that the turnout last time was pretty poor. And we would expect it to be, in general, better in an election year. But I think this election year, coming up in 2016, is going to be different even from other presidential years. And the reason I think that is because of this guy that we're all talking about. Because of Bernie. Because, he talks about, they're saying political revolution. Our democracy is in deep trouble. And it's not a question of, we need a little change here, we need a little change there. We need deep change. We need, if we want to save our democracy for this century, for our children and grandchildren, we need major change. I'll talk about some aspect of this. But one thing that Bernie was saying, that Kimberly was saying, is, hey, this is not about Bernie, it's not about me either. It's about all of us. And we do have a little bit of time. So I thought it would be good if we could first go around, if everyone could just, say your name, maybe something about what you do or where you come from, just a sentence or two of introduction. This is all about all of us. Could you start, please? Well, we certainly have quite a group here. But, we also need to acknowledge that if we want to bring about the kind of change that we're all talking about, that this has got to be just a start. I mean, hey, it's 16 months before the election. To get this many people out 16 months before the election, I think that says a lot. But this has to be just a beginning. We got to be building from here. I was a little bit biased. environment. I mean, climate change, fracking is serious. I'm going to say just what the science tells us is that climate change can create an environment that is so different from the entire conditions of human evolution within this century that we could be, we don't know if humanity can make it in those circumstances. We're certainly talking about millions of deaths around the world. You know, the World Bank says that if we got around 3 or 4 degrees centigrade warmer, which we could well, we're on the track to do that within this century. There are many governments around the world that won't be able to make it. We'll see governments falling. We'll see economic and political chaos. Now, this is kind of interesting because we see the issue here where a lot of the different things come together with money and politics. We see oil barons like the Koch brothers spending to protect their profits, spending millions of dollars to muddy the waters of debate, to introduce doubt and lies and falsehood, buying off politicians. We see our own Congressman Upton becoming a born-again climate science denier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Absolutely.
This is the utter hypocrisy. He understands the dangers pretty well. He understands the dangers from climate change, that it's putting my children, your children, all of our grandchildren at risk. But just for power, just to get that chairmanship of Energy and Commerce Committee, he said, oh no, I'm not really, the climate always changed. It was cold last winter. All right? Now seriously, that's the kind of problem with money and politics that we've got to get that to change. Well, then we need to come back also to the issue of race. You know, our criminal justice system, I think that there's two sides of it to look at. On the one hand, I think we all know that we're putting so many more people into prison for reasons that are just don't make a lot of sense. That when they started the war on drugs was substantially driven by, I'm going to say, an element of racism. And that's when we saw the prison populations increase by 300, 400%. We saw politics of fear, which led to a position of, well, lock them up and throw away the key. We have by far the highest prison population of any country in the world. Now we can look at this economically. You know, does it make any sense economically for Michigan to spend more money on prisons than it spends on higher education? No, certainly not. But let's also look at our communities. If we want the predominantly young men of our communities to be contributing positively in our communities, and what we're doing with our so-called criminal justice system is working against that. So that's an issue. But then when we see the things like the Ferguson and Charleston and so on, what that's telling us is that just utter racism is still a deep blight on our society and our democracy. And you know, I notice that we don't see a lot of African American faces in this room. All right. Well, that's the reality. But if we're going to build this movement, if we're going to build the movement, what Bernie calls the revolution, if we're going to get this democracy back on track in a way that is government of, by, and for the people, we've got to let people know that this is not for white people. That we're going to be that we need to be inclusive in terms of the challenges that have addressed this country historically. And we need to build a society that's a society for all of our citizens where there's true equality. I mean, right now, it's so sad that we're seeing, in terms of civil rights, in terms of voting rights, we're moving backwards. Yeah. We're moving backwards in terms of voting rights. Well, that's terrible. But in a context where we're also having increasing inequality. You know, when we saw the economic crisis this last time around, again, it's a very sad example of the depth of the loss of our democracy. What we saw is that since the crisis, the very people, the banks, the Wall Street that pushed us into the crisis, they're now the ones who are making record profits again, while wages have been flat, and while the assets the assets of our minority communities, African American and Latino communities, are dramatically, are a third or a quarter of the level of what they were before the crisis. So it's pushing us in completely the wrong direction. Well, so there's plenty of problems to talk about. When we talk about a positive policy, and I want to talk a bit about something that I'm pushing for my policy. I'm sure Bernie will have some things to say about his pretty soon. And one way to look at it is in terms of addressing the historic challenges, the economic inequality and so on. And so certainly we need to address the tax system. Certainly we need to stop giving corporations benefits for moving overseas. We need to stop giving them subsidies for producing oil. I think we need a substantial estate tax. We can find a way to save small businesses and keep family farms together and still have a significant estate tax. When we talk about, but we shouldn't just be thinking about solving the problems. We should also be looking at what do we need to build a strong, inclusive economy for the 21st century. What do we need to have a thriving democracy and thriving economy for the future? And one piece that's very clear about that is we need dramatic improvements in education. Not just a little bit here or a little bit there. We need to make it a national priority to have a seismic leap, a dramatic focus on education. Everything, and we're talking about making college affordable. That's just very, very basic. But we also, one of the most fundamental things we could do is give every child access to good quality preschool. And the research shows that would have an incredible difference. We need to make our K through 12 have significant improvements through things like smaller class sizes, through things like additional resources for disadvantaged communities, through more vocational education. Okay, yes, we need to make it so that everyone can go through college and not have debt. That's a very, very basic thing. We also need more retraining for jobs. All these things. Okay, then infrastructure. Again, it's if our government were supporting the economic elite, you would think the economic elite would want to have infrastructure because it helps them. It's going to help economic growth. Our government is so focused on just getting rid of taxes that they can't even make the investments that are going to help business make more profit, much less be good for the rest of us. Yeah. They can't even fix the roads and build the kind of public transportation and the kind of communications, electrical infrastructure that we need for the future. This is another basic. Well, and then we need to come back to the issue of climate change and the environment. Because if we don't deal with this one, then everything else goes by the wayside. And here the most sensible thing is a carbon tax. And I think that's something But we need to recognize that it's not just our economy, that economies around the world are going to need to be and will be moving towards low carbon energy. And that's going to be a major manufacturing opportunity. We want to keep Michigan as a strong manufacturing state. We want to be building industry in this country. Germany has figured this out. That's why Germany is pushing forward for their clean energy. We need to figure this out too if we want to keep strong jobs here. And so we need to make Michigan the center of the clean energy manufacturing for the future. Well, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take, a political movement here. I know this is a Bernie event, but I do want to go ahead and say, hey, I have a sign-up sheet if you're interested in volunteering or supporting in one way or another, getting on my email list for Clements for Congress. Some of you are already on it, I know, but if you want to be added, please.
This is for you
for me.
Run for office.
For Clements, I'm running for,
Yeah.
you got here after I said this,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah. Okay. I want to work on that.
Sure, yeah.
Nothing against you.
But you can get his email.
I get it.
Sure.
I get stuff from all of them.
Bernie has articulated a vision about the deep structural change that our democracy needs, that our economy needs. This is what my campaign is all about as well. I'm not endorsing any candidate because I don't feel that I can do that. I think that any Democrat who's going to be nominated is going to be better than all the Republicans. So I'm not endorsing any candidate. But I think that Bernie is pushing us, setting a direction that is the direction we need to save our democracy and to build the economy of the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. I just wanted to make a couple of short announcements before we take a short break, and then Bernie will be coming on. The first thing is I wanted to mention on August 8th, there's going to be a movement called an event called Chalk the Block. You don't have to be anywhere. All you have to be is in your own hometown, and we're going to be writing Bernie Sanders' name on the sidewalk or anywhere where everybody around the country will be able to see it. And then after that, there will be a Labor Day event running from 8 to noon all around the country. We're still working on setting them up. So look forward to that. And there's a clipboard with for signing in around here somewhere. If you have not signed it yet, please go ahead and sign it. And more importantly, I'm looking for team leaders in various areas. So if anybody here is interested in becoming a team leader, please come and see me afterwards. And with that, go ahead and take a few minutes, and I'll be setting up Bernie.